Hey Dennis, how are you?
Good, Al. How are you?
I'm perfect. Thank you.
Good. Good to hear.
Yes, we've got audio working. That's a good sign.
Yeah, true.
And then also, wait a minute, you have to know the interval next. Seven. You have to-
Oh, hey Dennis, did you get a chance to talk to Mike about the,
Yes, I did.
do you want to do it?
Yes, he does. I was going to announce it.
Yeah, it's good. I didn't mean to just do that, but I've been thinking,
No, I'm glad you did. I mean, I didn't realize that, you weren't.
I don't do it very well. That's the reason.
Well, that's your opinion, but
Not my wheelhouse.
exactly. I understand. I understand. No, I think it's all set.
But I asked, when Laurie came on, I asked her if she'd be interested and she
Oh, I'm glad you did because
was interested. So,
unless you ask, it doesn't happen
right.
usually. Yeah, thank you.
Captain Chris.
Chris, how are you doing? He's muted.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good morning.
Almost evening. We can even say evening.
I'm sure that she's not.
Good afternoon, everyone, or evening.
You're able to get it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Matt. How you doing?
Hey, Dennis. Hey, everyone.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
See, Steve Ward,
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
how you doing?
Good, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is actually Dan Stanton with the city.
How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you guys?
Okay. You're filling in for, or are you doing?
So I'm here with Race for the
Race,
marina
okay.
dock
Got it.
there. Yep.
Got it.
So hopefully
Thank you.
we're first on the agenda, I think I saw. So
Yeah,
talking
that's the biggest item on the agenda.
that's the plan. All right.
I wasn't sure how to share the link, so everybody just ended up being Susie. Sorry.
You're with Race as well?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
actually Susie. Nice to meet you.
Okay, Susie, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it
Uh,
just depends on who you are on the meeting. So Matt should be joining us, Susie.
Yep, I'm here. Matt Rakowski Race as well.
Incognito. I don't think we have a quorum yet, so we're gonna have to wait a little while. At least I don't think we do.
I know John is on the train, Dennis, and he didn't.
Yeah, I knew he was
loud
gonna
on the
be
train.
delayed.
He didn't want to call in because it was loud, he said, around him. Jeff is on now.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jeff. Okay, we have a quorum.
Sorry.
I believe. No, that's fine. That's fine. I didn't mean it to lay it on you.
Yeah, you were.
Okay, I'll take it.
601. 601, I'm okay.
Could start our meeting. It's a little after 6, a minute after 6. Chris, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
You are. Pledge of allegiance to the
To the flag
Of the
of
United
the
States.
United States of America
And
and to the republic for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chris. Let's do a roll call. I'll start out with Dennis Santella, Chairman.
Ellen Kibbe,
Chris McDonald, Commissioner.
Lori Jones, Commissioner.
Mike Matthews, Commissioner.
Jeff Mangles, Commissioner.
Get all the commissioners first, if we could. Okay. Consultants?
Jeff Stedman, consultant.
Okay, we can go with everyone else.
Susie Bradford with Race. Sorry.
Matt Rakowski with Race.
Dan Stanton with the city of Norwalk.
Okay, Steve, did you?
I did not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve Bardish, Shellfish Commission.
Are we missing anyone? I guess not. Okay. Well, I'll turn it over to Chris, who's
Okay.
the application review committee for John, who is tied up right now. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So I'll just, the one agenda item we have is the Veterans Memorial Park Public Marina Docks. The applicant, the city of Norwalk, proposes to remove 2 existing timber piers. The existing South Pier landing will be removed and the slope regraded and planted with native tidal vegetation. A new concrete gangway foundation and landing will be installed at the southern access ramp. The northern pier landing will be rehabilitated and raised approximately 6 inches. elevation 5.5. A reinforced concrete retaining wall and gangway foundation will be installed. 2 80-foot-long gangways will be installed to access one set of floating docks. The docks, including the gangway, landing floats, and fingers, will cover approximately 8,840 square feet. Electricity and water will be supplied to the proposed docks. Modifications to the parking lot are proposed and include removing 2 grassy areas and connecting islands. Existing dock gangways, piles, piers will be removed using land-based machinery and a barge-based crane as tide permits and disposed at authorized upland facility. Once the existing structures have been removed, the proposed 12-inch diameter pipe piles will be driven as required by subsurface conditions. The piles will be filled with concrete, and 2-inch HDPE sleeve will be installed to prevent wear. The docks will be floated into place by barge and secured using hand tools. Upland foundations and landings will be poured into forms. Once secured, gangways will be lifted into place and rested upon the floating landing floats. Upland work to the parking lot will be done at times of the project. Planning the slope of vegetation will be done once the demolition of the piers is complete. So that's the preamble. I'll let Race chime in with any other descriptions they want to make at this time.
Good evening, everyone. Matt Rakowski with Race. Just one clarification. I think it was mentioned 2-inch HDPE pipe. I believe it's actually 16-inch. It's a HDPE sleeve that would go over the steel piles to protect them from wear. The project, as it was explained, I won't go back through the details of everything. Long story short, the existing docks, I believe most of you are aware of, are in a state of needing repair. As such, the city was looking to optimize this area to better organize, reutilize the space, as well as to make it a more accessible facility. In doing so, the ADA access gangways will provide patrons access down to the docks. There's also being floating docks provided to provide the ADA to meet the ADA requirements, really providing again an accessible facility to everyone that seeks to berth a vessel here. The facility has been operating and will continue to operate as an open for all, as it's been required based on Army Corps permits. The existing dock extents will not encroach any further waterward into the anchorage than what is currently existing. And however, there are a few docks being added to gain some additional slips to meet demand in the area on the overall docks heading north and south of the facility, extending a little further north and south than the current extents of the existing. That's basically the project in a nutshell.
Matt, I have a couple questions if you don't mind. Are we getting less docks than we had before? Under the new plan?
Dock slips are yes and no. The facility is being redesigned to meet requirements for the 20-foot and 25-foot vessels. So it was laid out in accordance with compliances and regulations and guidelines. There's going to be more slips. I don't believe the ones on the landward side are able to be used except for dinghies. However, the new configuration will allow a significant amount of dinghies to be berthed on the landward edge of the docks along the north and south side.
Thank you.
Well, so, yeah, I guess it all depends on whether you're counting the slips on the back, because currently there's 86 slips. 27 fingers front, 16 fingers in the back. And the new configuration is 31 fingers with 61 slips at plus some number of watercraft, which you're showing on the north end. So I mean, it depends on how you program the back, right? Is it going to be, are you going to have inline slips there, or is it just going to be?
It'll be how, I guess the demand of it, it's intended for more of the dinghy vessels on the landward side just because of water depths. I believe on the north side, there are areas of reconfiguration that larger linear dockage could be used for vessels on that edge. But we are showing that as currently just, again, that landward edge being really for tie-ups of dinghies.
Yeah, the reason that that's important to us, the dinghy space, just why we're asking, is that if you have a mooring in the harbor where you keep your vessel, one of the things you need is an access point. And to my knowledge, that's really the key access point, is that dock facility at Vets Park, where the city can provide dinghy tie-ups for harbor mooring holders. The other question I have is the present dock is held in place by conventional wooden pilings, as I recall. There's no mention of putting any pilings in for the new dock in the narrative. Is it completely attached by the two concrete piles?
So there is, it's steel piles, Susie, 25 feet on center.
I believe so, yeah.
So there's steel piles being replaced. So right now, I believe it's timber piles anchoring the docks in place. Based on our wave analysis and design of the new docks, we determined that steel piles would be required at about the 25-foot spacing increment. Analysis was done and reviewed for timber piles and et cetera. However, the steel piles seem to be less impactful than the number of timber piles that would have been required.
Thank you. That's why.
To go back to
There are more than the two steel and concrete piles at the landings, correct?
Yes, correct. Yes, they're.
I couldn't pick them out on the drawings, that's all.
Okay.
I'll put the drawings up. I'll put the drawings up.
Yeah, were those sent to us, by the way, Chris? I can't remember.
John sent them. I assume he sent them to everybody. I got them a couple days ago. So this is.
Yeah, so they are tough to see there, but they're on the landward side only, and they're the little circles.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the about 25 feet on center on the landward side, and then there are some for the gangway landing float to secure that portion of the dock as well.
Okay.
Right.
That wasn't clear to me, which is just me. It's just how I interpret things. The other piece of this is that the utilization of this dock in the past, I understand. I've not had a boat on a Norwalk mooring. Is that at the southern end of that dock there was space for a vessel moored on a city mooring to come in for to tie up for loading, unloading, and getting fresh water, taking on fresh water, which is part of the need of the boats on the moorings. Is that going to be retained somewhere there in this new arrangement? Matt, you.
Yeah, that's something we can consider, Matt. This is Dan with the city. So I just wanted to make sure that, yeah, we don't lose any functionality of the docks with this project. So thank you for pointing that out. If
Yeah,
it wasn't us.
I'm not quite sure exactly where that was, but I know there's a place you come in and tie up, take on water and unload trash and so forth, because you're kind of.
Yeah, I would say we could accommodate that on the south end of the linear dockage on the landward side of the main dock. In that corner.
Right. So was there any consideration given to recreating some of these smaller slips on the backside? I mean, if we have everything programmed out here for larger slips. Here's your table. So 20 and 25 foot fingers. So, you know, but like a whaler, which draws, you know, just inches and only needs, you know, maybe a 10 or 12 foot finger. You know, the last dock I worked at, we put some of those in and sold them out, you know, right away. There's certainly demand for that kind of dock space, and you don't need a lot of water. You know, I'm just concerned that we're reducing the number of slips here. I mean, it's great that we're going to larger, including some larger slips and a bunch of good 20-foot fingers, because those sell really well. But you know, I mean, I think you'll have those type of customers. And what type of did we look at what type of customers, you know, what our customer base is right now, what our current leaseholders, slip holders are in terms of vessel sizes?
Yes, we work closely with the city and parks in regards to the demand in the wait list, and the marina was configured based on.
Okay.
One, we're kind of constrained because we're in the federal anchorage, so there's only so much you can do in regards to how far we can add slips and how far we can go. And so it was based on the demand that the city was seeking to meet. We did look at adding floats on the landward side of that main dock. But due to the fingers that were considered, we had to pull the dock to maintain the waterward limit so that there's no further encroachment into the federal anchorage area that is already existing. We had to pull things landward, and by pulling things landward, we end up having less water depths which aren't depicted here on this drawing too well, less water depths. So if we were to extend fingers landward on the backside, there wouldn't be any fairway to be able to get around. You would be able to transverse it during a high water event. However, during low water or getting close to low water, it does get pretty shallow on that backside or the landward side of the dock.
So the main dock itself is closer,
It's closer landward, correct.
Right.
And you can see there's the magenta line kind of cutting across the docks. That's basically that is the old waterward extent of the existing docks.
This line here?
That line there.
That's sort of your pier line.
So that was in working with the Army Corps, trying to gain this or update this facility to make it more accessible, to meet guidelines. There were certain things, widths of finger docks that we needed to meet, which ended up kind of taking up some space. So we had to extend the docks as well to try to maintain as many slips as possible within a reason. Again, because we're working within the federal anchorage area.
So Matt, was there consideration to move the docks closer to the, is that possible?
Move the docks closer to, sorry,
Towards
say that
the
again?
east? Yeah, towards the east to get some space between the land and the dock?
There was, but because we are in a federal, because these docks already lay within a federal anchorage area, we can't encroach further into that anchorage. Your line is kind of drawn because we also have all the moorings that need to that are out in the anchorage that need fairways and access.
Yeah,
So there really isn't much. Yeah. So you can see there.
that's the federal anchorage along the back. So we're almost 100% in it.
Right. So it was discussed, it was reviewed. Talking to Army Corps, it was almost not acceptable by them to be able to encroach further in. And again, because the moorings are there, fairways become issues. You're reducing those if you encroach further in. So kind of taking all these things into consideration, trying to meet the demand that's here, this ended up becoming the best layout for maximizing this area.
That is a tight area. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, you're kind of, you're already in the anchorage and you have land right there, so you're kind of stuck.
Right.
And Matt and Race did a great job, coming up with the layout and working with us as the city, and again, enhancing that. Some larger boats can be docked at the south end, and that, more personal watercraft could be accommodated at the north end,
So what's the status at this point about the installing the docks?
So this is obviously the consultation form that's gone out in preparation of a structures dredge and fill permit for the docks, because we are encroaching further to the north, to the south, kind of adding dock square footage. We're going through the structures dredge and fill permit through the DEP. And we have been in coordination with Army Corps as well as their Marine Division for a 408 application. So this is kind of the initial steps to getting this project underway. Once we get our feedback from all the consultation forms, we'll be able to really start the permitting process with DEP as well as Army Corps.
And Matt, how long of a process is this, kind of start to finish ballpark?
From the date the application is submitted, I would say about 12 months easily with the Army, with DEP. To get to this point has been 6 or 8 months. However, that was more in regards to coordination with the Army Corps. There was some difficulties with trying to connect with them in regards to the concepts that were being presented at that time.
So
we're
looking at like a 24, 25 project in terms of usable space.
Sorry, say that again.
About a 2024, 2025 reusable space.
Yeah, working with the city. I would anticipate a permit is authorized sometime next year, probably around this time. So docks, if the city's ready to go based on funding, et cetera, I would see that 2024 project, 2024 season, this could be open for.
Okay. And just not to recant a lot of numbers, but just from a ballpark, from your research, you said that you were doing a lot of review of the waiting list and the existing. Just from asking a handful of people that I know that are in that marina, size was one of the concerns they had. So in terms of like the waiting list and the overall consensus from the city, was it they were looking for less slips overall, but slightly larger? Or was there really, which direction was the data kind of pushing you towards?
It was pushing us to size and maximizing slips. I don't think that really answers your question. The slips that are currently out there are tighter. Obviously, boats have gotten slightly wider. And on top of it, the ADA compliance criteria as well, kind of push slip widths a little bit wider as well. I don't fully recall the wait list, but I do recall trying to maximize it for basically the 20-foot vessels is what that was.
And we can share what the list was with the Harbor Management Commission if you wish. I mean, to some degree, because of the condition of the docks and other available slips in other marinas, it wasn't being as fully utilized. And we hope with, this enhancement to the docks that we see a greater utilization, and then potentially a wait list. And then one thing that obviously Matt explained, to me as a novice with this, and that I'm sure you guys know, which is, this is the footprint that when we get permitted, that we are, going to build. So, we did try to accommodate both ADA, the storm, resilience of this structure, and as much as we could, again, within the restrictions of where this is located in the anchorage, expanding it north and south slightly, as a result of, making it ADA compliant in locations and improving those slips that we are able to have.
Yeah, I mean, this is a yeoman's tale, because trying to squeeze that much into that small of a space where you're constricted north and south, I can only imagine how many renditions you went through before you broke your pencils.
There were quite a few.
So
I appreciate Matt's patience with us on that. So
One other question.
Let me ask about
Another
something else.
question I had was,
Go ahead,
the
Dennis.
city consider transient mooring dinghies, a percentage on that dock that would help us on the transient moorings and people with dinghies, could they tie up there? Will there be any consideration for including those, including people? I guess this is a city question.
yeah, I can talk with Rex and Park and Harbor Master about, how that current Chris, the 61 mooring or the, dinghy locations are, what we have available there that I know the people in the anchorage utilize. But I think what you're asking is if any of these could be, transient docks and then therefore helped being managed by the harbor master, correct?
Well, yeah, my question basically is there any space left for dinghies that we need for moorings?
Well, it's a good question. Let me ask this part. Is the access to it going to be password or, passcode or key protected like it is now?
It's proposed to have a lock the same way for those that have a dock. They are allowed access, those that have moorings.
Right, which makes it difficult for transients because they're
Transient moorings, yeah.
They're not going to be able to get out on the. I mean,
We've had some conversation with the Recreation and Parks on this about using space on the Vets Park on the western side, landward of where the finger where the fireboat is. It's not really usable for regular guests. And at this point, we don't expect to have more than a handful of like as in 2 or 3 transient dinghies tied up. So I think that's the short-term solution for that.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go with that. To get them in on the the ones that are perpendicular to the shore in close, that you're not going to get a regular boat in. That's where you usually do dinghies anyways. So I wanted to ask about something. So it looks like we're eliminating the wooden pier sections, and so you're gonna have your aluminum. You're gonna just have a concrete pedestal that we're gonna have the aluminum ramps hinged to.
Yes, that is correct. Due to the lengths of the gangways to meet ADA compliance, as they're noted there on the drawing, they're 80 feet. The existing piers are in poor condition.
Yeah, they're garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, in order to hang something of this magnitude off of that, they would have to be reconstructed. There was consideration in regards to reconstructing them. But after kind of layouts and going through, it was determined that these gangways can be used as really the access points, eliminating structure that needs to be maintained.
So are they going to be raised at all, like the landward side?
They're being raised slightly.
Yeah, because I'm gonna throw a photo up here because this,
I believe to 6-ish.
this is it now, and this wasn't in a storm. This was like last fall, and I happened to be down at Vets Park at the vaccination place there, and you know this is what you got, and your ramp actually inverted over here because it was so low. You know this. That'll
Chris,
be.
if you're sharing, we don't see your picture.
Oh, sorry, I got it on my screen. I didn't put it on your screen. Sorry. I mean,
It's okay.
thanks for pointing that out. Share. So this was last fall, and it'll, you know, there's a high water warning for this weekend. That's probably what it'll look like this weekend, where, you know, this is the wooden part that's being eliminated. And yes, this is in really bad shape, partly because it gets submerged so much. But still, you know, your ramp actually you can't quite see it here as in another photograph, but your ramp is inverted. Your land point is actually higher than the point on the dock. And that's what you'll have with your 80-foot ramp too, unless you raise it a couple feet.
Yeah, we're not. Difficulty here is obviously access, and everything is low in the area. It has been considered to be raised. We have the pad access currently at 6. So it's about from this location, it's about maybe 10 inches higher than that. So it's going up. There are cases where the ramp could go inverted, and there's specialty factors in the design to account for that, so that the gangway as well as the dock doesn't get damaged.
Yeah.
And again, the difficulty, this entire parking lot is actually really low, and
yeah, that'll flood too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in actually state jurisdiction as well. So without full major rehaul, the access to the gangways to again to kind of maintain the ADA compliance to get out there with ramps and whatnot. There's only so high we can go before that ramp has to go halfway across a decent distance into the parking lot or getting into switchbacks and stuff of that nature. So we raised it as much as we could reasonably without too much significant reconfiguration of the overall parking lot itself.
Dennis, might I make a comment or a few comments?
Sure, Jeff, go ahead, Jeff.
Matt, do you need an individual permit from the Corps of Engineers, or is this going to be approvable with a general permit?
Nope, not a general permit, but it's a pre-construction notification is what's required. So that's what we're going to need through Army Corps as well as through the Marine Division, the 408 application.
And then we had talked about this earlier this year, that this project is eligible for funding from the state of Connecticut through the Connecticut Port Authority's Small Harbor Project. But we were not able to submit an application this year because the permit isn't in hand. But once the permit is in hand or it's close to it, then we have a good expectation that we would get funding through the Port Authority with a 20% city cost share involved. But just for comparison, the largest grant that was approved by the Port Authority earlier this year was $3.1 million for a dredging project in Stamford. So they're willing to consider a significant amount of money. So that points to the need for trying to get the permits as quickly as possible. And then the other thing, I know we've talked a long time tonight already, but it might be, I think it's valuable to put this into some historical context as well. I won't show all the drawings. We have a presentation about this, but the East Norwalk Basin was really the issues there were the beginnings of, were the reason for the Harbor Management Commission and the Harbor Management Plan in the first place, back in the 1980s. And it stemmed from the Corps of Engineers dredging project, and I think it was in 1980, when the Corps' contractor came to dredge the channel on the east side going up, and as well as the federal anchorage, and found that the property owners on the east side had built docks out into the channel without permits. And so that was the first time, as I'm aware, in Connecticut, that the Corps of Engineers took legal action against the violators of that, of the Corps' policies and guidelines. And I think it was, well, I won't name the names, but some of them went to federal court. Other property owners voluntarily pulled the docks back outside of the anchorage. And then in the course of the Harbor Management Plan, we had multiple meetings to figure out what to do with this. Because when those enforcement actions were being taken, the property owners on the east side said, could the city establish a harbor commission and help us out here? And so the end result was a plan that was incorporated into the first Harbor Management Plan for realigning the boundaries of the East Norwalk Basin, including the anchorage and cutting the channel off, before it got all the way up into the basin. We knew at the time that the East Norwalk Marina was in the federal anchorage, but that wasn't identified as an issue because that had been permitted many years before to be in the anchorage. So it was 1996, we went through a lengthy federal process with Congressman Shays and Senator Lieberman to amend and reconfigure the boundaries of the East Norwalk Basin. We cut off the channel. It didn't go all the way up into the basin anymore. And we moved the line on the east side of the channel and what became where the channel was in Anchorage away from the shoreline. So the property owners could build that, could apply for after the fact permits for the structures that were illegal. And then there's much more to that too, because we're trying to apply a benefit assessment to cover the costs, the substantial surveying costs that the Harbor Commission incurred to do the survey that was submitted to the Corps and then eventually was the basis of the federal act. It turned out that didn't work out. And then, but that was the solution of those issues. Then after we got those solved, the Corps would agree to dredge the whole navigation project up the Norwalk River, East Norwalk, the South Norwalk Channel. And with the understanding that the Veterans Park Marina could stay in the anchorage, but the city had to attest that it was open to all on equal terms, which means that non-residents could have access to it and there were no arbitrary fees for it. And then as a result, the Corps began and completed the three-phase dredging project. And so now, since that time, there's another requirement, which is, Matt was mentioning this 408 requirement, which didn't exist back then. And that's section 408 of some federal law that says when you do something that affects a federal public works project, you've got to evaluate it for its impacts on public use. And that's why the city went through this preliminary process with the Corps to determine that it was okay for them to do this work, even though it's in the anchorage. But again, it's with the understanding that it's open to all, and it is now and it will continue to be. And then in the Harbor Management Plan, we have a number of recommendations, but basically talks about, I could read those, but I would think that when the commission sends a letter to the applicant, to the city, expressing no objection to this moving forward, we should state what the policies of the Harbor Management Plan are with respect to this facility, which is to encourage improvement and maintenance for the public and continued management under the open to all and equal terms policy. But with that, I certainly don't think we would have any objection to this moving forward to a permit application now to start the process. But anyway, that's my long-winded speech, but we spent many hours dealing with these issues in the East Norwalk Basin years ago. Thank you.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we have no objection to this application moving forward.
Yeah, I'll second that.
And could we also transmit, though, the relevant policies of the plan, that the plan encourages enhancement, improvement of this facility for the public. And also that it's our understanding that it is being managed according to the open to all and equal terms policy and will continue to be managed under that policy.
I think we should. Yeah.
We want to include just a statement that the dinghy tie-ups for transient moorings will be available, as well a facility for taking on water for transient or moored vessels.
Yeah.
I think that all those functions are more appropriate to the visitors dock, not to this dock. Because there's no public access to this dock.
I sort of misspoke there. I think it's about access for moored vessels in the harbor.
Oh, for moored
Seasonal
vessels.
To have a space for dinghies there, as well as a place to take on water for harbor moored vessels.
Right.
I can't see everyone, but one of the provisions in the plan is that the land and water area immediately south of the existing dock should be reserved for future facility expansion to enhance opportunities for public access to the East Norwalk Basin and Norwalk Harbor, including development to accommodate small boats and dinghies that can be used to obtain access to vessels moored in the East Norwalk Basin and South Anchorage. So we have all those sorts of goals in the plan now. And if we just reiterate them in the statement as part of our letter, it would cover everything that we would hope to accomplish, and then we would continue to review it as the application moves forward.
Well, I'll amend my motion to include the relevant parts of the harbor management plan.
Just to comment, I think this is a great project. I think it's something that the city can really look forward to having at Vets Park, and congratulations, Matt, for, I think it's a nice presentation.
Yes, and express our appreciation to the city also to managing this project over the years in accordance with that open to all and equal terms policy. Not other towns don't always do that and run into problems.
Do you want to call the vote, Dennis? Unless there's any more
Either way,
discussion.
does everyone have any other suggestions regarding this vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Any abstentions? Looks like the vote carries with the recommendations of that were presented. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very
everyone.
much, Dennis, and your commission, and Matt and team. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Yes.
Take care. Thank you.
Anything else, Chris, on your agenda?
No, that's the only application we're looking at tonight.
Okay. Under Chairman's report, I just want to make you aware, and you probably can figure this out, that our November meeting is a little too close to Thanksgiving, so we're going to move it up a week to November 16th. To give us time to have a meeting. It'll be the third week instead of the fourth. Also, we will have the city bring us up to date on the Eversource cable alignment to the dock area at Vets Park. We had a meeting this week and it's changed a little bit. So I don't want to get into it now, but they will be at our meeting the 16th to give us the information and let everybody know what's going on. Any questions? Okay, staff reports, Harbor Master Bruce. Welcome aboard.
Hi, all. Just a couple things. There's 10 abandoned moorings over in the Bell Island area. And after our last meeting, I tagged them all. I tagged them. I got names that those moorings were under. I looked them up, couldn't find them. So right now, Norm Edwards is going to pull them, put them to the side, and come spring, if someone calls me, then they'll pay up and get their mooring. And then
Thanks for keeping tabs on that, Bruce. That was a big effort that we should have.
yeah, it was a long summer.
Seems like the only way to keep them honest over there is to pull them out.
You know,
That's
I
what he
really
did.
hate to do it, but it's got to be done. I mean, like I said, I tagged them with stickers and everything else, and no one's come forward. So
Yeah,
I've
it's-
found
it's-
removing
it's-
them is the
We'll
best
see what happens.
quantifier to know who was using it and who wants to use it in the future.
Yeah, it's
Right.
really a safety issue as well. You know, if
Yeah,
they're
well,
not
some-
paying for them, they're not going to get inspected.
yeah, well,
so.
Norm, some of the chains are not up to par. They all need inspection. So I just made the decision just to pull them, and if someone comes forward, then we'll deal with it. Captain Kibbe, I got you a $300 check for that sailboat. That the Marine unit, that Sergeant Basigli that they towed, that was adrift last month. I got you a check, and I met with someone today that needs to go on one of the transients for a week, and he's going to write us $100 check. So we broke even.
It's pretty amazing. Has anybody seen Bruce's stickers that he's had made for putting on
Oh, I
moorings?
don't think I have any. Do you have
I
it?
do. Here, look at it.
I definitely don't want to see one of those.
Pretty good, huh?
It works.
Is
They
it bigger
work.
than the ball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it bigger than the ball?
No, but maybe next year's.
And Harbor Master Lavala, do you put those on the ball and the vessel if there's a vessel or no?
One vessel I did put on a bow railing. I just stuck it on the bow railing and the ball. That was for an individual that had a sailboat in the East Channel that I've been after him. This is Mark Hackshaw. It's like pulling teeth every year, and he's 3 years outdated on his inspection. I mean, I call the guy every month, get your mooring inspected. And about a week ago, I noticed that he was on a bow anchor because his mooring broke.
Mm.
That has now been fixed. So I'm just waiting for him to take his boat off his mooring, and then
pull it.
I think we're just going to pull it because I don't know his stern anchor, his stern mushroom, the chain may be bad. So I'm just going to deal with them in the spring. I'm just going to pull it and we'll deal with it for non-compliance. A couple months ago, I asked the commission to get a estimate. The Harbor Master boat enclosure was pretty much shot. I had Jerry's Upholstery come down. They gave me an estimate for a full enclosure with some clear windows, $1,648.65. Winter's approaching. The boat wasn't covered last year. We got electronics on the boat, and I think it needs to get done.
Bruce, the question I have is the boat worth putting that kind of money into it? I mean, are we looking at a new boat at some point in the future?
I mean,
We need this?
maybe in the future, but for right now, that boat is pretty solid.
Okay.
For what it's being used for right now. I went down today. One of the batteries was bad, so I got Norm Edwards is over there charging up one of the batteries. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll go down again, and we may have to purchase I purchased those batteries about 4 years ago when I was down in the Marine unit. But to your
That's about
question,
all you're gonna
Dennis,
get on the water anyway.
yeah, I mean, this summer, except for Sergeant Basigli and his guys using the boat, I obviously with my knee replacement, I didn't get out there too much with it. So obviously there might be some type of draw on it for the batteries to go dead, but that's pretty much all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Master Lavallo, does that boat come out of the water in the winter, or is it on?
So I
all winter?
was gonna wait till next month, but I'll answer your question. I don't know why maybe when the bridge project starts in full blossom, maybe we'll keep the boat in, but I was gonna pull the boat in sometime in December. It was gonna go into a heated garage, and my community people that need some community hours are gonna wax it again. We're gonna paint the inside of the boat. And I'm getting the harbor master letters donated. So we're gonna re-sticker it with the harbor master on the side of the boat. But yeah, I think it should come out. I mean, no, unless the shellfish guys need it, but I think they could maybe get a ride from Sergeant Basigli and his crew. I think that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I just was concerned if we're gonna order a new cover, that would be a spring item? Or
Well,
is it right now?
Well, if the boat's gonna stay in, I would like to cover it up now. We got November, maybe the beginning of December, I can get it pulled. So, either or, we could do it in the spring now.
Well, the spring might be busy, so you're better off doing it now, I would think.
They came down and measured it, and I'm just wait for you guys for the go ahead to have them build the canvas.
Well, I'd make a motion then that we allocate funds, the Harbor Commission allocates funds to get the new canvas and plastic for the harbor master's boat.
I'll second that.
Do we have a second? Matt?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Question for
Go ahead.
discussion. Does
Steve,
this,
go ahead.
does this resolution absolve the Shellfish Commission from our 50% of the bill?
Absolutely not.
Okay, yeah, I'll present that next week. I'm sure it's helpful.
Present that and let me know, will you, Steve?
Will too.
Any other questions?
So we're authorizing 50% of the bill.
What's that?
I do have one thing for the harbor master, that is, do you want to just talk about the invoice we have from GNC and that, for that boat, because we'll vote on that too.
Yeah, it was.
What are we doing?
Well, let's just take the vote on the,
Let's do the
on the
harbor master
surround.
boat.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the harbor master boat? All in favor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
Anyone against? Any abstention?
The next item was the bill for
Motion
GNC
passed.
Marine. GNC Marine for having the boat hauled out of Grassy and crushed. There's the bill for Gary Wetmore.
I don't think we have a choice, to be honest with you.
It's cheap to get rid of it, but it's just getting it.
Well, Alan's
where you need to go.
muted.
Yeah, I'll put a motion out that the commission vote to authorize payment of this invoice from GNC Marine Services.
Yeah, I'll second that. Jeff Mangles.
Okay, any questions?
Well, yeah, is this exclusively a Harbor Commission, financial burden?
It seems to be, from what I gather.
That, well, we don't have them, I mean, you get a couple of these and that's our budget. I mean, this is not, and we're not as this, and it had to be done, and I have no desire to screw Gary Wetmore, but he should be made full at some way, but it does not seem like that is a Harbor Commission function to do this.
I think, Chris, that was kind of what I was talking with Bruce last meeting about getting some type of procedure in place so that, you know, the Marine Police and Bruce have a fighting chance to know kind of what they should do when these issues come up, when there's a transient mooring guy who's not reacting, when there's a boat up on Shea Island, you know, whatever the situation is, these guys kind of have a protocol of what to do. And us from a commission, to your point exactly, you know, we shouldn't be opening our wallet every time there's an issue. There should be some type of understanding that we're a city agency, just like Parks and Rec and all the others. That
we're not a city agency. We're
well, I'm sorry, a commission under the city agency.
Yeah.
That the problem ends up falling to us. That's what I'm trying to get at. Is that at some point someone has to take care of it and not just let a boat rot on Grassy Island for the fall. So that's kind of what I want to bring up, and maybe we were talking about a subcommittee or we were talking about another discussion point. You know, not to take too much time from tonight's meeting, but you know, to give Bruce and those guys a fighting chance to have some type of protocol of what to follow when these things come up, because they're probably going to come up more often than not with the amount of boats that are out on the harbor based on the pandemic and based on potential, you know, economic features that are coming into play for next year.
Right. Jeff, did you have anything to offer, Jeff Stedman?
Just a little bit. The last meeting, we talked about the availability of a state fund called the Supplemental Environmental Projects Fund. Is potentially available for use for this purpose, to remove abandoned boats. But it would take a while to go through the application. And the first thing that the DEP people asked us is, do you have the money yourself in your own budget? Because the funds, the harbor management funds are, I think this is an appropriate purpose if there are enough sufficient funds, because they're to be used for maintaining safe and efficient operation of the harbor. So this was a matter that the harbor master and the Marine Police felt was a potential threat to navigation, and therefore it was removed right away. And it also, we talked about that this demonstrates to the city the need to have a sufficient city budget from the grant to fund these sorts of projects. But if it was a substantial, you know, project with an abandoned barge or a commercial vessel, then I think we'd want to tap into or attempt to seek assistance from the state through that program I mentioned. But we thought this was appropriate, and also demonstrates the commission taking an active role in protecting public safety in the harbor through its own funds.
I don't like the precedent, even at this level. I mean, obviously we're, you know, if a barge or something that require a large salvage operation, you know, would go, but you know, and part of it, I mean, part of this was because this vessel could be a hazard to navigation, right? I mean, a vessel sat on Tavern Island for like 9 months last year, 2 years ago, and because it was on private property, the guy who owns Tavern Island had to pay Gary to get rid of it, and that's what happened. It sat there, you know, on the edge of Tavern Island, right off the navigation channel, and we didn't touch it because it was so solidly aground. It was no longer a hazard to navigate.
Was it a threat?
Wasn't a threat. So he didn't do anything. The harbor master didn't do anything. It sat there. The property owner had to negotiate with Gary Wetmore. Did it? I remember talking to him about it, and they, you know, and it was $6-8 grand. I mean, it wasn't a cheap job. And none of this is, you know. So
there's also the process to follow to recover the money from the last owner of record. But in this case, the police department determined that the last owner was indigent and had no funds. And then it'd be prior to removing it, the ownership title was transferred. I don't know to whom, Bruce, but it was transferred to the city somehow.
To the city.
But there wasn't any opportunity or any process to follow to recover funds from the last owner of record.
Nor do we have the ways or means to do that as a commission.
The harbor master does, and working with the DEP, there are procedures for doing that.
And my fear is that we have 5 or 6 of these in a calendar year and we're wiped out.
I mean, we had 3 in 1 week.
Well, it only takes a hurricane or something. Nobody has, if somebody doesn't have insurance on their boat.
Excuse me.
Jeff,
I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Is that?
Do we need to apply, Jeff? Do we need to apply to the state based on what you said earlier?
Yes, we talked with a person at the state who said that there is a fund available, and other towns have applied for monies through this fund. And it's a fund that has monies that come from fines. People do violations and they pay a monetary fine and it goes into this fund. But we would have to apply for it.
Well, we should do that with this particular bill we have a vote on.
I'm still not gonna, hang on.
Sorry?
Well, is Gary waiting to get paid?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
He was,
I mean, he's not knocking down our door, but.
All right.
he was asked to
on the
do this
motion.
by, I guess, the Marine Police and the Harbor Master.
I mean, Dennis, can I make a recommended motion that we approve this as a one-off and we put some type of policy in place so that we can handle these type of issues in two ways, that Bruce and the Marine Police have some type of protocol to follow going forward. And then on the other side, on the financial side, that we've got some type of either research in the background or something else going on here that we can understand if multiple issues like this come down the pike in years to come, how are we going to handle them?
Well, you may be able to make a motion separately just for that
We
issue.
have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion right now for just paying Gary's G&C's bill. But I think you might want to make a motion to address that entire issue.
Excuse me.
Well,
I'm sorry.
If that's the case, I'll second.
Let me
that
withdraw the
first, just to get
motion.
that over.
then.
Dennis, I'm sorry. I came in late. I just sort of signed in. If I could be put on the record of joining the meeting. Are you referring to, for example, the possibility of building a derelict fund? I mean, you know,
Yes.
we're talking about yesterday, right? In the mayor's office.
Yes.
That's something that we have to plan for the future, which is certainly possible if we get some extra funding and able to keep funds in a sort of an escrow fund, and we don't have to sort of spend down on them as a result of the city finances saying that you can't carry over funding from year to year. According to Vanessa, there's a mechanism that we have for that.
Yeah, we don't have a slush fund that carries over from year to year.
No, but we can't, we're allowed to do that.
That could be-
Have a slush fund that
Under
carries
special
over from year to
request.
year.
Under special request, we can do that.
Yes,
So we-
and we do that.
Well, we have to spend down on it because it interferes with the granting aspect of the next year's grant. In other words, you have money in the account. Why don't you spend down on it? But I think now there is a mechanism. We found out that you have to talk to the city, the chief financial officer, also the mayor's office, and indicate that we would like to have a special fund set aside for just this one purpose. And we were allowed to carry that through each year by just meeting with the chief financial officer and I guess someone from the mayor's office to show need of why that's required. And that money can be left in escrow for us.
John, is there any idea on the capabilities of this fund, though? I mean, how much money would be available? How many of these?
Well, there's things in a pipeline that perhaps might be coming forward. We don't know. I don't like the way this is being done. Maybe we can talk about it after the meeting at a sort of a special, but there was mention of funding to the Harbor Commission through other sources. But I think we should talk about that amongst ourselves.
And I'm not trying to belabor this vote here, everyone. I'm a little worried, as Chris said, about setting a precedent here. I haven't been around long enough, obviously, to know how many times this happened. I've heard from a few of you that, hey, 3 times in a week, 5 or 6 times in a year. How often does this commission truly deal with an incident like this? Is this a couple times a year?
This is the first one. This is the first one that we've had in several years.
Couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a recurring theme. Let me put it that way. It just so happened that it was just fortuitous that these 2 vessels tended to wind up on shore for
Okay.
But we are liable for that, and we did in the past have funding. We had a derelict vessel fund in the past. I'm going back probably 15, 20 years, probably around there, where the city in their so-called divine wisdom, and when we went before the finance committee, that you can't carry over this amount. Well, they saw, I think we had about $7,000 or $8,000 in this account that we kept carrying over each year. And they said, well, before we give you a grant, you better spend down on this money here. I said, well, that money is set aside for purposes that we need, that for, again, the so-called rainy day funds or derelict vessel fund. And they nixed that. But later on, we did find out that that money did come in handy. That type of funding came in handy because when we did the dredging project, we had to come up with about $14,000 to pay for the analysis of soil to see whether it's compatible, our soil here, the dredging, compatible with soil down in the Western Long Island Sound. So we had to pay for that out of our own funding. So it's things like that this so-called derelict vessel or slush fund that we can keep handy for just these emergency purpose comes in handy. But again, the divine wisdom that this financial committee that the department had, to me, I thought it was ridiculous because we do have these type of emergencies coming up. And if they don't see it, if they don't see that, I'm sorry.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
The way we do it now is we used to ask for $9,000 a year from the city. 2 years ago, we upped that to more like $20,000 a year because we thought that the $9,000 contribution was absurd. So my concern now is I met with the BET months ago with the mayor, and they've approved our grant request for 2022, 2023, which is $24,000, as I recall, from the city. So we're in a situation where we're not spending enough money because we're ending the year with a lot of cash on hand, which
then we need to justify that we can put aside an escrow fund.
Pardon me?
I think we should justify then this is why we need an escrow fund. All right, we didn't spend that. We didn't spend that money.
We don't need an escrow fund. The money carries over from year
but
to year.
are we allowed to carry that money over from year to year, Alan?
Yes.
Oh, we are. Oh,
yeah.
Well, I was told
So
that
there's no, right now we have almost $20,000 on hand, and we're going to have another 24 coming from the city.
then if we're allowed to carry it over, because I was under the impression that we were not able to carry any kind of funding over to keep anything money off to the side.
Well, I don't know that the money is actually sitting in a lockbox that says the North Harbor Commission on it. It's the city has a lot of money when these things come out.
This Harbor Management Fund account, especially set aside from the general funds for the city. That was separate, and at one time we were gaining interest on that money.
Well, we get interest on our money now.
Yeah. Okay.
Every month.
All right. So I was out of the.
I still think we should have a separate dedicated fund for what we've been doing to cover C&G's bill in situations like that.
I agree.
Keep it separate, keep it clean. And if that helps to get the grant, then that makes sense.
And Alan, is that not the $24,000 that you were talking about for 2022, 23? I mean, that's not what we're receiving coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it was as far as I know, it hasn't been accredited to our account, but it's learning how the city government works. If we need a big chunk of money for something we don't have in our budget that arises, the city's, my experience, has been fairly straightforward in providing that money. There are all kinds of things that come up in city government that you can't anticipate. Things break and they aren't budgeted for. So we've, in my short experience with this, we've had good support in and I think that as we get transit moorings and can start making a little money there, we'll be able to pay some of these kinds of removal expenses on our own, which I believe the state thinks and DEP thinks are Harbor Commission responsibilities.
So
according to
my
Jeff.
point is that it's our responsibility to facilitate it, but budgetarily, it should either be the state of the city and not come out of our little pot of 24. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be a quarter of our budget. That's what the number we got is a quarter of our budget. It's a quarter of that $24,000, right? I don't think that's the correct way to handle this.
Well,
So we go back, we go to the state, if there's a state fund to go to, or we go to the city and ask for a one-time, we go back to the well and say.
Well, it's
there's-
hard to go back to the well when you have cash sitting on hand. That's my point.
Well,
That's correct. And they made that very plain to us, Chris.
well, this is a quarter of our budget being expended on an unforeseen, issue. I mean, yeah, the reason you have a budget, you go back. If you,
Well, our budget's more like $50,000.
well, okay, well, we get 24 from the
year.
city, you just said.
Because we get 24 from the city, we get roughly 25 from moorings and other revenue.
Well, are we getting off the topic? I mean, we have a motion on the floor, Dennis, that we
We have
have.
a
Yes,
motion.
we do. We have a motion on the floor to pay GNC.
Well, the topic is, where does this money come from?
Well,
We
we
have
have
the
the
money
money
on
with the
hand.
state and based on what Jeff said for the grant.
Was it from the state or from our budget?
No, it's going to come from
answer.
our budget right now, and then we'll apply
Then
for
we'll have to work
state
about the
funds.
grant.
I think that's a fair way to do that because, I mean, Gary, is it Gary Wetmore? Who is the?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Gary, I just assume, he's certainly been, working with us very closely, working with Bruce very closely for taking care of such an emergency. I think, the people that we have hired here in Norwalk, I think they should certainly be funded, and then we can always recapture those funds later on.
But there's no guarantee that we're going to get the money from the
I
state.
realize there's no
We
guarantee,
can
Jeff.
apply for
Right.
it, but
You can apply for it. I know there's no guarantee, but that's what that money is for. And as I was saying, that in the near future, I think we have to put our foot forward with the city and say, hey, look, we need to put X number of dollars aside. And Alan, if we were able to do that, then that's great. That answers our question.
If there's an extraordinary expense for the Harbor Commission, it's going to have, we don't have the money, it's going to come from somewhere, and we're not asked to open our wallets to do that personally. So it has to come from the city. And if the city can't afford that, the city would have to go to the state. I mean, but it seems to be that we're being made accountable for these removal and towing kinds of things. This one's expensive because it had to go on a barge and then be ground up because there's no insurance in the boat and the indigent owner.
Well, it was actually the city's boat at that time.
Ah.
Right? Because they
I don't know when
signed
that
it off to
transaction
the,
happened.
they signed it over to the city, I believe.
yes.
We send the bill to we send the bill. to the
Yeah,
city.
exactly.
Put it, put the $6,000 in the next budget request. Or have we already gotten our funding for next year, the next fiscal?
22, 23 is all done.
What's the fiscal year? I'm not familiar. Is it
July to
July?
June,
Yeah.
June.
23.
Jeff, could you find out on the grant situation and what's involved and what we need to do?
No, we talked about that. Actually, as an example, there's a sunken boat up in Norwich Harbor on the Thames River that the Harbor Commission and the Harbor Master were applying for a grant for. And we were told they needed to get estimates. This hadn't been removed yet, so it wasn't after the fact. And the two estimates because it was a 50-foot boat that had sunk, the two estimates were $40-something thousand and $90,000 to remove it. So that's a little bit above.
$1, $2 a foot, huh?
When we talked, when Bruce had that invoice, the DEP guy said that usually this grant program is applied for when the municipality doesn't have any money and it hasn't been removed, and you apply for the grant. And the first thing he asked, why can't you remove it yourself? Because they didn't want to set a precedent for providing funds for the relatively small projects that could be paid for locally. But we can pursue that. And see
Well,
if
it sounds like there is no grant. If they're
well,
gonna,
it's there. He said there's no reason we can't apply for it, but we'd have to submit the detailed invoice for what the cost was, and well, we can do that and see what happens.
Would that be from the DO? Who's that? Is that from the Port
No,
Authority?
it's from DEP, John.
Oh, okay. All right.
all right, how do you want to handle this motion that's on the floor? Oh, you made the motion, correct?
Sure, let's call the question. It's either it goes or it doesn't, I guess.
Didn't understand.
And then I'll send Gary to John Pinto.
We have to pay Gary.
Yeah, there's no question.
There's a
You
motion to
need a
pay
second
Gary.
on the motion first.
I seconded the motion.
Yeah.
So the
Other-
motion is to pay.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm all-
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you.
So that leaves us with the
We need
question
to-
of how to, of
Yeah.
how to proceed with a general policy on, is it the Harbor Commission's responsibility to pay out of our budget? And if so, how do we budget when we have no idea?
Well,
There can be a big storm and,
Exactly. It's a good
or
point.
is it the harbor responsibility and the harbor master's responsibility to dispose of it, get rid of it, but the bill goes to the city or
Well,
whatever.
normally it would go to the boat owner.
And their
because-
insurance, correct.
And their insurance.
If they have it.
This is a-
If
this
they
is an
have it.
uninsured vessel, on an indigent owner, so it's kind of no place to go for money.
Well,
Jeff, did
happens,
you have a
what
question?
happens if a car is abandoned on the side of the street and they can't trace an owner? Somebody has to pay for that to be disposed of.
Yeah, I would imagine the city would, a wrecking yard goes, they hold it.
Sure, I mean,
Bruce would know more
No,
about
Bruce,
that type of thing than I would.
What's a police officer do? Abandoned vehicle? Who's he contact?
well, I mean, after you've established that you can't.
The
find it,
owner.
It's just abandoned property.
Previous owner.
Oh,
You know, you try
There's
to
a
track
VIN
down the
number on it
previous owner. If
usually?
it's not, you can't find the previous owner, then it's our abandoned unit goes and
Mhm.
takes the car.
They sticker it and then they tow it.
They sticker
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
What
did
is
they
a good
sell it?
auction? then?
What do they do with the car?
Just auction, probably.
Yeah, it can go to auction or,
Full of blanks.
Scrap
but the
it.
problem is like with this, where do you keep it? Where do you, that's one of the main problems, we got scolded for bringing the boat to the city dock. What do we do with it? It's a navigation, the one that was dragging anchor. What do we do with it?
Right.
We tried to put it on a mooring. It was too windy. The guys couldn't do it. So they brought it to the city dock, and then I'm getting calls at 10 o'clock at night, getting scolded why we put the boat there.
Sure.
Yeah, right.
Other question, Jeff?
And there's another consideration too, that Chris and I learned when we talked with city officials about the pending ship grant, that there's a complex process for the city to accept any money that involves the council and the mayor. And when we talked about that, we figured that if this grant for removal of a boat was feasible, or we had a chance to get it, that the money could be that the state of Connecticut harbor master could receive the funds, because the harbor master is not a city official, is a state official. But when talking with Deep and learning about what's involved with the city accepting any sort of money as a grant and all of the sign-offs that are needed, we pursued whether the harbor master could accept money like that, and it was determined that he could, or she could, if there's a harbor master that's a female.
So what's the best course of action? I mean, do we get do we get agencies involved? Do we get you mentioned Norwich. I mean, do we have a panel where we talk with other commissions? How do we approach this?
Well, it sounds like we can either apply to Deep, which for this past one, and my suggestion is we put in $5,000 in next year's budget for abandoned vessels.
So the argument that we made at first with Deep was that the commission didn't have this money in the budget. That I thought that the derelict vessel fund had been rescinded or taken back by the city because it wasn't used. And so that was our argument initially with thinking about applying for this fund. And then we talked about that there is money in the account. And then that would demonstrate that the need for the city to have a substantial grant, the Harbor Commission to have a substantial grant each year, but it wasn't meant to commit the commission to doing this every time. But that's.
So it sounds like we don't have a shot in hell of getting the Deep money. A,
Hey,
it's
Gordon?
already spent, and B, we can't show a need.
Well, it doesn't
Right.
mean we doesn't mean we can't apply for it, but we're
Sure, we
applying
can-
for it after the
Yeah,
fact.
stamp's only 50 cents, right? I mean, I get you, but,
But is showing a need to deep that we would go belly up if we made this purchase? I mean, I've got to think, to your point, Chris, if you're devoting half or a quarter of your budget, that's a need, right? Or is that not enough?
It's more like a tenth of the budget of our cash flow
yeah.
revenue through the.
Overall budget.
Okay.
And
I
would
see.
you need to show like reoccurring problems to put you in the hole to then justify that need?
Right.
It seems like that's the case.
I
Well, that
mean, we
would
don't-
express the
We
need for, to
can't
accruing.
go belly up. We don't have that luxury, I guess.
And again, we can still accrue funding from year to year and build up for that escrow fund over the years. If we don't use that.
accrue it from where? From where?
From the previous budget, like we put money
No,
in,
no. Where does the money come from?
come from partly a grant, number one, and
What
maybe.
grant? We don't have, there are no grants.
Well, the grant is from,
Grants
well,
for-
when I say a grant is from the city. I mean, the city, we're
All right, that's-
considered a grant from the city. The
Fine.
money that we get from the city,
But the city grant is based on a proposed budget.
right? Now,
Right. So we have to ask the city, so I'm saying we have to ask the city for money for this specific line item.
yes, and then if we can keep money aside, additional, and accrue, let's say, I don't know, X number of dollars each year, that's put aside to build up a little.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the things we,
Work with.
our revenues is declining on, people aren't putting moorings in the harbor. We ought to know why that is a declining revenue source there. That's something we should try to figure out, why we get less mooring revenue year over year. It's a nice harbor. I don't know why that is. Maybe people are afraid to leave their boat on the mooring because they aren't seasoned boaters and don't know how to row out there. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Right.
But I think that, as we have more revenue, again, there's city grant and from transit moorings, which because of Bruce, we were able to break even on that this year. We really covered our cost of installing 2 moorings and painting the balls bright yellow and all. But the city can't let us build up an account of that is $100,000 in case we had a 50-foot boat sink that's going to cost money to remove.
Again, why not? Over years, 1 or 2, 3, we start putting money aside.
Why would you have, if you were the city of Norwalk, why would you have $50,000 or $90,000 sitting somewhere in case something happens?
Yeah,
That's
The
not
harbor
that's
management,
not how
you don't
city
know,
government is
you don't know what's being, you don't know what things like that happen. At least you have
Right.
money put
No,
aside.
but it's perfectly reasonable to have $5,000 in that fund. And if we ask for $5,000 next year and we don't use it, we don't put it in the next year, we just carry it forward. Or we put it in a second time, then we have 10,000. That way we can handle 2 vessels in 1 year. We don't do it for 20 years and keep $100,000 because now you're exaggerating.
Well,
It's not gonna happen for
I
20
don't think we
years.
need to call it a derelict vessel fund. It should be a harbor management fund because there could be projects that we might need it for probably dredging, for vessel removal, for for testing, for soil samples. Who knows?
Well, all I'm saying is when we put our application, when we ask the city for money, I'm assuming there's an actual budget attached to it. We don't just ask for them for a blank check, right?
No, there's a line item on the budget.
I'm proposing that one of the lines in the budget for next year be $5,000 or $8,000. We can argue about it in June, for derelict vessel removal.
Right.
Fine.
And if we
I
can,
agree. It should be a line item in the budget and it will show that we spent $6,000 this year. And so next year we should put in 10 in case there's more than 1 boat. And it becomes a budget line item. And as Alan says, if we don't spend down our entire budget and we can move it to the next year, we just keep continuing that budget line item.
That's the key. That's the key thing that we were not able, at least in my impression, what I heard from the finance office, that we couldn't do that. But I don't see why we can't do that. And it's in fact talking to Vanessa, they can do that. She does that
DPW. does it.
lockbox of Harbor Commission money anywhere.
Well-
That's not how it works. There's not a big box in the vault that says Harbor Commission where the money lives. It's commingled with the city funds.
According to
Uh,
Vanessa in the DPW office, that's what she does, that they have in their budget. Because they have a budget they have to fight with, and if they don't use it, they lose it. And then, but she has money set aside for these various projects that come up, who knows, that she's able to carry funds through for the following year and keep accruing that. And they don't touch that. She is able to have access to that funding. That's something that we need to do too. Because who knows? I don't know. I mean, we have a 50-foot vessel coming in. Hey, it's more than $6,000. It's going to be it needs to be dished out. We don't know how much we're going to actually, but there's no reason why we can't accrue funds over years.
But is that our job to do, or is it the city's job to be self-insured for that kind of thing?
Well, that's a good, that I don't know, Alan.
Well, the
Yeah,
city,
I mean,
Another
that's part of
question,
it
Jeff?
too. I mean,
because they're not paying for it.
Not to belabor the point, but certain monies can only be used for work in the harbor. So any fee that's recommended and collected by the Harbor Management Commission or the harbor master can only be used for purposes of improving the harbor for the public. That's under the state statute.
Right.
The grant is something different. That I can see how they could say that can't be accrued. But the mooring fees and any application fees that might be attached in the future, or vessel vessel docking fees, as Jeff is working on, or any of those can't be used for anything other than the harbor related projects, or it's in violation of the statute.
Derelict vessel removal goes underneath that.
Yeah, if you had that as under that, yeah, but it's the grant that could come back.
Okay.
That would revert back to the city if it's not used.
So Alan, you'll be able to work on this for almost a year now, because you'll be able to present it next year.
yeah, as long as we're spending enough money there, again, it's hard to increase your grant when you don't need it. That's the
So there's time for you guys to get together and figure out what you're gonna do.
Yeah, and at last meeting, I agreed to sort of take on with Bruce, a policy-making subcommittee, and I didn't get everybody's name, and I've had a lot of family issues this month, so I haven't really been onto that. But if you want to participate in that, just shoot me an email, and we'll get together offline and work on with Bruce really on the policy system. Other as I didn't share with the whole commission. Other cities like in New York State have a fee schedule for derelict vessels of what it costs to store them per day. They have to be towed, a towing fee, and all that sort of stuff that other cities in other states can collect. I don't know if we're able to, in Connecticut, able to do those things to put a number on what it costs to, tow a vessel and things like that. But if you shoot me the email, we'll get together and work on that. If you want to be part of that.
Are we set?
I'm set.
Okay. Jeff, do you have anything else you have a report or anything? Jeff Stedman? You're muted.
Yeah, I got it. But not to prolong the meeting, but there were several things that I think are significant, including the appellate court decision in the case that emanated from Greenwich. That was issued last week on the 18th. And it essentially confirmed the Superior Court judge's ruling that a Harbor Management Commission's recommendations have no weight with DEEP unless they're recommendations that are already set forth ahead of time in the Harbor Management Plan. And that the Superior Court judge's decision was used against us in the Walk Bridge public hearing, when the hearing officer responded that the Harbor Commission has no special standing and the comments will be treated just as general public comments. So that's a significant, like, existential threat to what we do. But the Greenwich Harbor Commission voted to recommend to the town attorney's office to proceed with whatever the proper petition is to the Connecticut Supreme Court to appeal that decision. And it may be a couple of months before the Supreme Court decides whether to hear an appeal or not. And in the interim, what do? Do we convene or try to convene a meeting of representatives of all of the 27 towns that have, or 26 towns that have harbor management plans, and try to work on a legislative remedy for this to clarify, the longstanding practice that exists with harbor management.
Well, you know, Jeff, we have that in motion already. I mean, motion, we have the, sort of in the wings with several other commissions around the state.
So, I mean, that's something that we could do, is contact the other towns and I mean, it's a significant problem, and it makes no sense that a harbor management plan could identify every problem that might arise and then provide an answer for the harbor commission. You wouldn't need the commission. You'd someone just look at the plan and find what the answer is. And
never cease
so
to
we
amaze
have
me
to figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me how intelligent some of the judges that we have are,
But I don't think they really recognize that.
I don't think they've read or they have any idea what goes on as far as harbor management.
But one thing that the Greenwich Town Attorney Office, when the hope that the Supreme Court will give more consideration to the impact of this decision if they take the appeal on all, and not just on Greenwich, but towns throughout Connecticut. It's not just a decision that affects Greenwich. But anyway, so that's one thing. We'll have to figure out how to deal with that. And then the other, maybe Chris is going to report on this when he talks about the SHIP grant for the street end access. But the bond commission meeting that was scheduled for Friday of this week to allocate the funds for our project feasibility study and also all the 9 other projects in the state, that bond commission meeting was canceled. And so now it's December 9th when it's anticipated that the bond commission will act and allocate those funds. And then the other thing we talked about, some of us, is that Parks and Rec is going through the process of updating or preparing a parks master plan. And I think it would be appropriate for the commission to provide, with respect to the waterfront parks, the statements that are now in the harbor management plan concerning the use of those parks. And we could provide that as part of the planning process. And then I guess we don't know yet about the status of the waterfront rezoning study that affects Water Street. It was interesting when we the page on the planning and zoning department website that had those studies is no longer, well, at least wasn't last week. It was no longer active. But so we're anticipating that at some point we're going to have to provide input and comment on a proposal for rezoning the waterfront properties on Water Street, but nothing's been submitted to the commission yet. Thanks. That's my report.
Thank you, Jeff. Shellfish, Steve?
Thank you, Chairman. So the Shellfish Commission only had one application discussed within the jurisdiction of the NHMC. And that was Roten Points Association's application to increase the length of their boat launch ramp, if you will, for Hobie Cats and junior sailing. They wished in their application to have a concrete landing structure extending down to mean low water. The Shellfish Commission essentially opposed that and asked if the applicant would be interested in perhaps having this as a live sand beach instead. They offered safety concerns with respect to the cobble that's there. The Shellfish Commission expressed safety concerns with respect to a very slippery ramp in that area. So Mr. Bajek, the agent, was going back to the applicant and to my knowledge has not returned info. And with respect to the harbor boat enclosure, next week we'll go back and seek the 800 and change to get that done. And that's really all I have. Eat Norwalk shellfish, especially this holiday season. And I yield back, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Mooring and harbor safety, as you can imagine, we're moving towards the end of the season. The committee will ensure that the mooring fees be paid, even though the required documents have not been submitted. We received the adjusted final payment from Norwalk Yacht Club of $1,509.60. That's how much we were shorted. I hate to say it that way, but that's how it ended.
Yeah, Dennis, I had a question. In the meeting minutes, I just wanted to confirm, I think it's at 15,000. Was that right?
Yeah, I corrected that.
Just want to make sure.
I wish
Thank
it
you.
was 15,000, but it is.
I was about to say that's a pretty hefty
Or
increase.
you wish it wasn't 15,000, but that it would be paid already, you mean?
No, it's $1,509.60.
Thank you.
We will continue to work with the harbor master regarding delinquent moorings and applications, and he's very good at this, and the new sheriff in town is doing a great job, I gotta tell you. Thank you, Bruce.
Welcome.
Under harbor safety, the committee's not aware of any harbor safety issues or concerns at this point. And that concludes my report. Finance, Al.
Not a whole lot to report. I don't have a report this month. There's very little change from what we did last month. I said before that we've covered the cost of our transient moorings through really people out of the blue calling the harbor master and saying, "Hey, I need a mooring," or having a derelict boat that we can put on the mooring and charge the owner for the storage of the boat on the one of our transient moorings. So that's good news, and thanks to Bruce for just being on top of that. The one thing I have to report is we've made no progress with the city in terms of getting our DACWA account approved. I've probably sent 4 or 5 emails to the corporation council because they have to tell us who can sign this little document. I'm at a point where I'm prepared to sign it myself because it's really just about revenue coming into the city. There's no sharing of data with an outside contractor or anything. It's all been approved by the IT people. And I'm kind of reading that the corporation council is understaffed and not interested in this project. So to get it going, I would be fine signing it myself if you authorize me to do that. I was thinking we could have a commission vote, say that a commissioner is authorized to sign this. It's an $1,800 expense is what it comes down to. It's $1,800 per year is what the deal is for that. So I'll put that out there for a little discussion if anybody thinks that's a good idea or not.
Is that a motion?
Not yet.
Alan, does DACWA get a fee from each time you use it to lease a mooring or a slip?
Yeah, it's 3.5%. It's the credit card handling fee is what they take out of it. It's all done by credit card. They take care of all the collections and all, and they deposit automatically, direct deposit into the city's account. And from the controller's office, we can kind of know how to do that because the 5 Mile River Commission already does that with DACWA. So it's a known process in the financial part of the city. So I'm kind of I just would like to be able to go
Is there
ahead with
any,
this.
is there any authority reason why a commissioner can't sign it?
Well, people are saying, well, the mayor has to sign anything like that. I can't imagine the mayor signs things like that, but
Dennis, what did we do with the mooring fees? We give, that the company that oversees the mooring fees. I thought we initiated that. We signed off on that.
We did, and I was a little bit before my time, so I'm not sure the details of how that came about.
Yeah, isn't this the same idea?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
So I believe, since we were doing the negotiated, that the commission, I forget exactly, that was signed off on by one of the commission. We'd have to go back and look at the minutes.
Well, the outflow is going to come out of the Harbor Commission. I mean, we budgeted for that last year. We would have that expense and would certainly expect more than $1,200, revenue per year, or $2,000 revenue per year.
Yeah.
They're giving us a 10% discount, so it's a little less our first year.
But I think we initiated that with, on our behalf to go forward with that mooring.
The online mooring.
Online mooring, the online moorings. I see this is really no difference.
Same thing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that the city would be jumping on this because you would want us to do this or DACWA because it's more about marketing and come to Norwalk, see what we
Well,
have. And
yeah.
DACWA does a great job anytime
Yes.
that you're looking for a slip or a mooring or somewhere.
It's a no-brainer for the city, and be sure that Jessica Vanashek, who she's the director of economic development for the city, she's all on board and knows what this is and understands the benefit to Norwalk. It's just that the wheels turn very slowly. I think the legal department is I think Jeff knows as well, is way overwhelmed with doing anything like this, and nobody wants to stick their neck out. So. If the commission were to
How
vote,
much time would that take, Alan? I mean, it's just a matter of reading a document and signing it. I mean, I don't understand.
it's a one-page document. It's
I mean,
it's
well, come
nothing.
on. I wouldn't.
Attorneys don't do it that way.
Who doesn't do it that way then?
Attorneys.
Oh,
No.
I'm
So,
sorry.
I mean, I think we should go ahead and sign this and get the process going, because I would like to see us going into this, having the winter to really get our pictures. I mean, the thing about DACWA is you put pictures of your harbor and all that sort of language together about what there is to do when you come to our harbor and things like that. Get that started so we have it when we get to March, when the season really starts to roll out, we're ready to go.
But again, I thought we did have that sort of so-called authority to engage in harbor management related. Again, this is not going toward this. This is dealing with harbor management business, particularly. We have a right to go into contract.
It's just a vendor agreement.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really all it is. And the city's already, I think that what went sideways with it is that the Recreation and Parks Department has purchased a software program that they're having customized to take care of all their rentals of all the city facilities, the ball fields, all of the recreation and parks, picnic pavilions at the Gallagher Mansion, all those sort of things. And I think they had a feeling that they would take over the transit moorings or the seasonal moorings with that, and run the city dock with that software once they get it customized.
And the fees would go into where?
That they haven't outright spoken about the moorings, but there was a lot of opposition from one of the guys, Ken Hughes, about using us using DACWA instead of their new software.
Well, if their money was then funneled into for harbor related issues into our harbor management account, I would have no problem with that. But I have a feeling that that's not going to be the case.
And they can't show us what they have.
Exactly. If they don't want to show us what they have, why should we get involved with that?
Right. And they don't. And
It's
not
also
really
a
shown.
different, it's a different audience. I
Yes.
mean, then they would be promoting their website too, so.
We did have a meeting with Jessica Vanashek and Robert Stowers finally about this, and they said the recreation parks and the city people that were there said, well, if somebody wanted to get a mooring in Norwalk Harbor, wouldn't they go to the mayor's dashboard on the city website to look for that? And
No.
I mean,
No, you go to the harbor
stupid
master.
You
You go to the
go to the harbor master. So
Yeah, somebody's got to stick up and say, no, we go to the harbor master. Harbor master is
So-
to oversee moorings in the city of Norwalk. Well,
So that's that whole objection has held things up. Now it's finally gotten to the legal department, who have told Jeff that they're very, very busy. I said in on a meeting.
I think that's a ruse.
So I'm happy to just get the ball going, and
Well,
if you vote to authorize a commissioner to sign this agreement, I'd be happy to do it.
I don't see why you can't. I mean, you're a commissioner. You're also put in charge of the financial end of this thing. So I don't see why you don't have the responsibility to be able to do that.
So somebody want to make a motion besides me? I mean,
I'll make the motion that Alan Kibbe on behalf of the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission enters into agreement with DACWA for management of the transient moorings.
And I'll second that motion.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor?
no,
Anyone
I'm gonna-
against?
I'm gonna have to abstain.
Okay, Anyone against?
Happy to explain if needed.
Abstentions? We have one abstention. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Mike, you're the software developer
No, no.
That would be even better.
or that new?
I'll let you know after your report.
He is a
Jim.
rival DocWa feature he's going to propose next meeting.
Yeah, it's a little weirder than that. I'll just put it at that. So,
Yeah.
no offense to anybody here. I just want to be sure to stay out of the sticky stuff here.
Okay.
Plans and recommendations, Jeff Mangles.
All right, plans and recommendations. So I had a discussion with Jeff Stedman last week, and I've also been in touch with the city attorneys about slip fees. But you know, after discussing this, one of the questions is going to be, well, what are you going to use the money for? Right? Okay. Well, we went through a whole bunch of things right now that we could use the money for. But so my plans and recommendations, I like the commissioners to just email me just one or two or three, whatever you want to do if you think that there's something good, like capital improvement. So I want to put together a 5-year capital improvement plan, and this is what the slip fee is going to be used for. So, and then I can go to the city saying, hey, look, you want to know what the money is used for, and when there's a public hearing, this is what the money is going to be used for. Some of the things that I've already come up with are street end access, you know, improving that stuff, the transient floating docks, and floating docks within the harbor to maximize space and ease of access. Milford Harbor already uses this. The main maintenance of those floating docks, buoy purchases and placement and maintenance, harbor master vessel maintenance and/or replacement soon enough.
Jeff, who asked you about where the money, what the money's going from?
No, because they will ask. They'll say,
who asked you?
They will ask.
Oh, they will ask. Oh, they haven't.
They will ask.
Oh, I see.
What is the money going to be used
when they
for?
start raising fees on us? Where are you going to spend the money on?
Yeah. Well,
you know.
So when a public hearing, when East Norfolk Boating and Yacht Club says, hey, we have 50 slips and you're charging us $35 a slip, what's that money going to be used for? And this is what the money's going to be used for. Right. And one of the other things is I have in a list, abandoned vessel removal and disposal fees. Imagine that. And then maintenance of the Norwalk Islands, cleaning up, improving the camping site. There's a couple of the islands that do have campsites.
Yeah.
So Grassy and Ram.
Wasn't that on the budget? Well, I thought that was the budget on Parks and Rec.
Oh, I don't know. It could be. What about improving the site? But I mean, it could be. These are just, you know, things that we could do. You know, interns for water sample collection and drains to the sound, placards for the catch basins. You know, I used to see them spray painted. I haven't seen that in a long time now, you know, that's on there. But a placard, I've been to other towns where they have a medallion or a placard that's on there.
We've done that in the past too, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. I've seen them in the past. I haven't seen them recently.
But we haven't initiated that further.
They cast right in the concrete curb, drains to water course.
Okay.
Basins. But anyways, well, dredging has always been our biggest potential.
You hit the nail on the head, Chris. Yes. As a matter of fact, I would love to consider having put aside money for dredging fees.
And this is what this could be
to be able to approve money over a 5 or 10 year period, because we are off the federal budget. And right now it's going to be the city and maybe the state that's going to put any money aside to do dredging in Norwalk Harbor.
So when we first talked about slip fees and things, we had a meeting with South Norwalk Boat Club. They were very nice, but they, you know, one of their big questions is, what's the money going to be used for? So this is at the very beginning of even asking for that. And then when we brought up dredging, they're like, oh, no, that's the city and that's the state, you know, and then I try to explain it a little bit, and, you know, they want to know why. you know, and and I agree. You should know why. You should have an answer for that.
Mhm.
What does 5 Mile use their money for? They have this fee already.
They do.
Yes.
They
Then what
do.
do they
So
use it
it's
for?
maintenance and dredging. Mhm.
Thanks, Jeff. That's true.
That's yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Sorry, I forgot you were here, but that is true, correct?
Yes.
Maintenance and
Absolutely true.
dredging. Mhm.
Yes, sir.
And Jeff, when we first started, I mean, this was pre-pandemic when we were sitting down having these meetings and setting this stuff up. And
Yeah.
I think we had one meeting and we were doing an outreach program where we were going to basically Cove and we were going to Rex and we were going to Southern Boat Club and a bunch of others and kind of having a, can we get back to, the basis of that first discussion point was dredging.
Mhm.
And that was the sole goal of putting a fee together for moorings, for docks, for anyone associated, and kind of starting from there. So I just sent you a list, by the way, with a couple of bullet points, but
Oh, okay.
really, the basic stuff is, dredging, derelict boats, water quality, consulting, the walk bridge, concerns that, no offense to anybody, but they say it's not going to cost us anything. And that's a, complete lie. It's going to cost us all sorts of things, whether it be overtime, whether it be additional divers, whether it be following up on things, there's all sorts of other things that we're going to get stuck. And this, issue that Chris brought up earlier about this derelict boat and this being a precedent for something longer term, this is a great example of we're kind of the stopgap for all these things to fall to. And what are we going to ask, Bruce Laval to put it on his Amex card? I mean, this is something that we have to,
Absolutely,
really
yes.
take a step back and think about. And
Yeah,
I think it's a
right.
great point that you're making about kind of gathering all this information. And I think one of the things that we might have lost sight of, but I know was one of our critical issues initially, was to kind of market ourselves and who are we and what do we do,
Mhm.
so that the city knows, like they kind of have an idea what Parks and Rec does. They kind of have an idea what DPW does. What does the Harbor Commission do? What do those guys just have cocktails and have a meeting once a quarter? Like they have no idea. So I think that's kind of part of it too, is a little bit of an outreach of, and to your point,
Matt, I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. We were at a meeting yesterday with the mayor, Dennis and Steve and I. And it was like the Harbor Commission was the Harbor Commissioner, and they didn't see it. They didn't. I had to actually come out. No, we are part of the city. We are part of the city. We're not a separate entity off to the side. We're working on behalf of the city. What we're asking for is for the good of the city. It dealt with the visitors dock, dealt with putting those underlying power tension wires underneath our harbor. We're working for the city and trying to get the city's best interest in mind. And I hope that came through, because I had mentioned that twice to Alicia. I think it was Alicia King. That was yes. It was Alicia King. Yeah. I mean,
Was that Sally Johnson?
no. Sally was
It was Alicia and Vanessa.
It was Alicia and
Yeah,
Vanessa.
Alicia and Vanessa. Okay.
Just to make it, no, Alicia, we are part of the city. We're the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission, part of the city. And it seems like it was like foreign. We're a group of guys that are off to the side, doing their own thing. No, I mentioned that twice to them. No, so I hope it sank in, but apparently not.
I mean, I think we sent, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 20 letters to the Common Council and the mayor about the Walk Bridge project alone. Is there something that we get on their agenda once a year, twice a year?
John Romano, in all defense of John Romano we were supposed to do that. I think we're supposed to do that last year and meet and put a sort of a what we do agenda together, just to get on the Common Council's list. This is who we are. We're not a group of guys sitting, we're appointed by the city, by you, basically Common Council, the mayor, and we're doing your bidding. And we're looking out for the harbor on the harbor management plan, which is approved by the state and approved by the city. And I think we have to make that absolutely plain to them, what we do as an organization, as a commission. Hi, Jen.
We prepared a presentation just for that purpose, John.
Yes, that's correct. I know.
Yeah.
We have a PowerPoint presentation waiting in the wings just to present just that overview. We've done it a number of times with the yeah, well, anyway. But you're right, Matt. Absolutely correct.
Yeah, so if I could
Jeff?
just ask the commissioners
Back to you,
to,
Jeff.
sorry, if I can just ask the commissioners to just jot down their ideas and send it to me, and then I'll put all of that together. Going to put that in front of the attorneys. They really, not saying that they don't care, but I'm just going to move this forward once I have this, and seeing that this is what we're going to do with the money will answer a lot of the questions. And there's hardly going to be any questions after that, because that's the number one question. What are you going to do with that money? Why should we pay? And the taxpayer shouldn't pay. We shouldn't keep pulling out of the city funds, because the slips, a lot of times people don't live in Norwalk. So they're not taxpayers of Norwalk, but they're enjoying our harbor and our islands. So I think that this is a good thing.
Jeff, I just think we shouldn't get too detailed about this list, because somebody
Nope, just
keeping eyes on it and say, well, you didn't do that last year, so we're gonna get money back, something stupid like that.
Yeah, we dredged. Did you go down there?
Well, that's
Let me
a
help
big
you.
thing, and that's not what I really
You know,
understand.
the removal of these moorings
I
that
agree.
you know that Bruce is doing a great job on. You know, finding these derelict moorings and going out and tagging them. You know, that's fuel for the vessel. That's his time, but fuel for the vessel and you know, maintenance. Then you know, when you use it more, there's more maintenance on it. And then when you need to pull the you know the mushrooms out, well,
Yeah, who pays for it?
nobody's going to do that for free. You know,
Yeah.
and why should they?
I just don't know why we don't get the same type of, you know, response from the city attorney as the planning commission does, as the zoning commission does, any of the commissions here in the state. They seem to, in the city rather, they seem to have the attention of the, you know, the law department, you know, the attorneys, et cetera. Why can't we
Yeah.
receive the same type of attention? I don't understand it. That's my.
Yeah, they were doing okay. You know, I'm not going to throw them under the bus. You know, but you know.
Right.
They were doing okay, and you know, and I'll continue to work with them, and then we'll you know, work with Mr. Stowers and you know, hopefully we can get everything passed and then present it and go to Common Council and say this is why, because that's what's going to happen. I'm going to have to explain this to Common Council, right? Well, what do you need to do that for? What will the money be used for?
And just, we're going on and on here, but we're just asking for the same consideration in the city code as given to the 5 Mile River Commission.
Correct.
Yes.
So if they
That's
can't
correct.
do that for the 5 Mile River Commission, why couldn't they do it for the Harbor Management Commission? But that's
Yep.
what we're asking for. And that that added fees would go into a dedicated account only for capital improvement projects, not for staff or
That's correct.
consultant. It would go for capital projects.
Right.
And one source, one use of that money is for the cost share that required for state grants. And we provided funds for well, anyway.
No, you're right, Jeff. You know.
Yeah, you're right, Jeff.
That's
And
right.
just to introduce one subtle difference, the 5 Mile River Commission is a state agency, not a city agency. And the
That's
city
right.
handles those finances as a courtesy, and Darien has its own responsibilities.
I have a clarification question. When you just said that the fees from slips would go into just capital expenditure, you know, just to cover capital expenses, but the fees for moorings go into our regular operating budget. But
Right. So,
aren't
you know,
those really the
it's
same?
it is, you know, but a capital improvement plan, I could say this is what some of the fees are going to be used for. Not all the fees. I mean, maybe we could wean ourselves off of this, you know, city grant of $24,000 even. So those are all benefits. And then to rework that, even the East Basin with floating dock systems, absolutely fantastic. Anyway, that's my plan, and it's well on its way. So we'll see, where that goes. If anybody wants to send anything, just let me know. You can email me.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Let me ask a question here. We keep hearing about a meeting that happened yesterday. What was that meeting about and what was the result of it?
As I mentioned earlier, they're gonna be at our November 16th meeting and we'll get all the details, but I told you, or at least I thought
Okay.
that it was from Eversource regarding the
Oh, that's just about Eversource, because, well,
Yes.
John made it sound like it was about a lot more.
No, Chris, I'm going to put that on the agenda. Vanessa wants to be present, as well as the Eversource people want to be present. Marcia Wellman will be involved.
Okay.
They want to present, and I mentioned to the mayor, it's going to be almost set up like a pre-application. There's no application. There's no document that we can look at. They're just going to present it as a pre-application of what they plan to do, and that we reserve the right to review in its entirety an entire proposal when it's put together.
That is correct. And this would involve the Shellfish Commission.
Right.
At least some portion of this meeting would be a joint noticed meeting.
Because
And honestly, before the meeting, we didn't even know what we were going into review.
I mean,
Right?
Eversource has been dragging their feet for 4 years. 4 years. They were supposed to have this project done in November of 2018. Completed, or else if it wasn't done by 2018, what was it? They were going to put the wires overhead. Because DOT had to get this done. Well, apparently that was not correct, at all. So there's a roost, there's a smoke screen somewhere around here. I'm sure there's more details that we don't know, but as far as I'm concerned, this has been one of the biggest mysteries, going. So we're going to wait till next month. We're going to wait till next month to see what's going to be put forward. That's the only thing we can do.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification on that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Newsletter and website. I'd just like to thank Matt Matthews for coming up and wanting to do that, take care of that little chore. And I appreciate that, and I'm sure everyone else does. And I want to thank Al Kibbe for everything he did during that time he was on board. So Matt, thank you very much for stepping up. And if anyone could clue Matt in a little bit on what you might want to see, hear, whatever. It's been a while since we did the newsletter. Website it basically, from what I understand, it was on Facebook. One of the previous commissioners we had took care of that, but we weren't too active on Facebook either. But it's something we need to think about. And if everybody has some ideas, talk to Matt.
Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, but I've got both names, so honest mistake here. Very, very quickly on that.
Mike, I'm sorry.
No, Dennis, you're okay. It happens all the time.
I can't read sometimes.
No, I've got that
Should
problem.
know that. That's my fault. I'm sorry.
Just very quickly here, some of the stuff that Jeff was mentioning, I think we can highlight that. It doesn't hurt to highlight it on social media and kind of put out what we do and let everybody know what we are in the community. So I'll be reaching out about some of this.
Okay, very good. Appreciate that. Water quality, Joe, Shoreline.
Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
We had very interesting meeting this last meeting. But before I get into it, I just want to toss something out that we learned a long time ago. If Eversource does go under the river, high tension cables give off heat. So that is going to escalate the events of hypoxia that take place in the river, especially during the summertime. So if they do it deep enough, it could help minimize it. But if they're trying to take shortcuts again, we're going to have more fish kills. So that somebody has to keep an eye on that. Since I wasn't invited to that meeting, It's up to you guys. And the other thing,
Joe, there were no details brought forward on that, nor did we see a design of what their overall proposal is going to be, just the direction that they had planned or proposed to put the cable.
I understand that, John. I absolutely understand that.
So we're just as much in the dark, and as I said, we'll have to wait till next month to see what they have. But anyway, but you're absolutely right. I did a lot of certainly reading about that too. And plus, I mean, there are other factors too. Even the current itself has an effect, the amount of current, like the voltage going through there has an effect also on the water quality. As far as the, what do you call it? The electrostatic, something to do with the electrostatic something or other I was reading about. I didn't understand that completely.
And it will impact fish migration up the river.
Yes, yeah, because they do sense that electric current. Yes.
Yeah, when they put the cables across the sound from Manresa, all of a sudden the seals were not seen where they were normally seen on Great Reef. Excuse me, at the southwest corner of Sheffield Island. They weren't crossing the cable, and that lasted for years. So that affected their moving into the sound.
Wasn't that a good thing if they eat all the starter fish and everything?
Well, it depends on what you think is a good thing. For the kids that wanted to see seals, it was a bad thing.
Okay, all right, yeah. But
isn't that cable laid on the ground actually?
Yes.
Going
across.
It's plowed in.
It's not on the ground. It's
trenched a little bit.
It's down 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
And they were counting on the shifting tides, filling it in and covering it.
Yeah, it's plowed in, whereas Eversource is going to direct drill completely
which is-
under it.
I forget what the number was,
But moving on to the agenda here. We did not hear anything about the fact that we had an issue with the sewage treatment plant and this lawsuit that Save the Sound has for violations. And we haven't heard anything. I got a letter from Ralph Kolb, but it didn't tell us anything specifically what they were being accused of. We're going to stay on that. We're going to see what happens with that. We had testing done at Wilson Point, and that Bill Mooney did it and Dick Harris did it, and they both said that the samples were all clean, the ones that were taken. So there's no evident problem right now. I don't know where we're going to be with that consent decree, but hopefully we'll hear more as time goes on. One of the hot issues was Parks and Rec want to put 2 artificial turf fields in the Broad River section, and one is right on the Kellogg Deering well field. The problem with artificial turf right now is that they contain PFAS, and that will leach into the soil. That well field already is not EPA approvable because the PFAS is higher than what the EPA would approve, which right now is 0. So ironically, we've asked the health department to put out some type of a flyer saying, you can help reduce your intake of PFAS by putting charcoal, having charcoal filters, but nobody has done that. I've also suggested that with the mayor.
Joel, you're talking about charcoal filters where?
For water, drinking water specifically.
No, but they plan to put the turf, that the astroturf that they plan to put down contains these certain particles in between the fibers.
Yes.
They get tossed up in the air every time you run across these fields.
Yes, and some of those fibers contain, they're from recycled tires. Some of them are coconut husks. Some of them are other organic substances, but it's the blades of grass in the artificial turfs that also contain the PFAS. And there was a study done, I believe it was in Washington, where 5 female soccer goalies all came down with cancer.
Well, well, PFAS is an endocrine disruptor. Yes, that's correct.
And the studies that were done, there were no studies done on males. And, you know, I have a contact that hopefully is looking into it. And she's very sensitive to this because she has a daughter that is a goalie and a very good goalie. So hopefully she'll be able to let us know the ins and outs of this. And there has been no study done on males that were goalies. And the goalies in particular, because they dive down on the ground, have more exposure to it. Several of us attended the meeting with the Parks and Rec people and their planning, and we pointed that out. And we asked them to take a serious look at this. Looking at the faces in this room, most of you played on grass and you're still here. And it didn't hurt you. Well, I shouldn't say that. It could have hurt you on a few occasions, but we're still here. And it may change a whole industry to come up with a PFAS empty AstroTurf field, but we don't know. But we did want Parks and Rec to know about that. And with that, I'm going to end it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, Dennis?
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Okay,
One thing, comment to make, Joe, is that this month is the 50th anniversary of the 1972 Clean Water Act. The goal was to make all the waters in the country fishable and swimmable, and there's still progress to be made towards that goal. But anyway, I thought that was.
Thank you, Jeff.
An interesting point to make. We haven't talked about that much.
okay, thanks. Our next item is public comment, and I don't believe we have anybody from the public.
We have one
there is
attendee
one
from the
person.
public, but no one's raised their hand yet. So I
Oh,
don't think there's any
See it
comments.
list- I don't see anyone listed, that's why. I asked.
If you go to attendees,
That's what I did.
oh,
Participants, and I don't see anyone. So what are you suggesting, Amelia?
If anyone from the public wishes to speak, they can raise their hand and I will allow them to talk, but if they're not raising their hand, then I don't think you have any public comment tonight.
Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes. Now, I know the minutes came out late. I was able to get a couple revisions to John, and I know Lori, you had an issue. I don't know if that was ever satisfied. And has everybody read the minutes and had any issues and that they got corrected? Because I have no problem with tabling this approval of the minutes till next month, if it came out too late.
John Crespo's not here either, so maybe we should table it, right?
I have no problem with it. Give you some more time.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look. I didn't see them. Did not look
Okay,
at them.
that's what I figured. So you want to make that motion to
I'll make a motion to hold minutes over for next meeting.
okay, second. Al,
Yeah.
all in favor? Motion carries. And I'll take an adjournment. Motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. All in favor?
second.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Have a good week, month,
Take
whatever.
care.
Okay.
Everybody, see you in 3 weeks.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Take
Thank you
care,
for
everybody.
everything.
Thanks, everybody.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.